But I'd like to finish by looking at funding, because this has a real-world impact on rural communities like mine, and the figures are, quite frankly, shocking. Under the 2025-26 Local Government Finance Settlement, government-funded spending power in predominantly urban areas will be £573 per head compared to £407 in predominantly rural areas. Urban councils will get a huge 41% more per head than rural. Over 10,000 people, that equates to £1.66 million a year. Council tax per head will, on average, be 20% higher in rural areas than in urban areas. And now, predominantly urban areas are to receive over 7 times more of the proposed £600 million recovery grant than predominantly rural areas. Last week, the Government announced continued funding for the Rural England Prosperity Fund, with up to £33 million directed to the fund to improve local infrastructure and essential services that benefit rural communities and help businesses to expand, creating jobs and kick-starting the rural economy. From 2023 to 25, this fund was £110 million. So while £33 million is welcome, it does equate to a cut of 36% in annual funding. We welcome DEFRA's announcement of up to £5 million to go towards the continuation of important services for rural communities, such as capital funding for the refurbishment and development of much-needed community-owned assets, such as village halls and community centres. And I've seen several of these in my own patch who've upgraded their community centres and are doing really vital work bringing the community together. But the Liberal Democrats are concerned by the Government's decision to allocate additional funding within the Local Government Finance Settlement on a need and demand basis. The new system of allocation will not recognise that the sparse and isolated nature of rural areas drives higher costs for the delivery of essential services, creates challenges in recruitment of staff for key services, and requires local authorities to provide a greater public subsidy for the provision of public transport. And we know that the challenges of recruitment are having a direct impact on inward investment into rural areas, because companies who want to invest in South Devon are anxious to do so because they know that workers cannot afford houses in South Devon, so where's the workforce going to come from? Likewise, the Government's suggestion that funding previously allocated to rural local authorities under the Rural Services Delivery Grant will be repurposed under the need and demand basis that jeopardises rural local authority funding. This is despite the grant providing rural local authorities with £100 million for the rollout of essential public services, including emergency services and the provision of social care in 24-25. So we urge the Government to provide rural councils with a funding settlement which reflects the impact of rurality and sparsity of the areas they serve through the application of the fair funding formula. There's a lot to unpack here, but I have called this debate to urge the Government to think about working more across Whitehall departments, to bring people together, to really consider the impact of departmental spending decisions, not only on that department, but the impact they have on each other. How do transport decisions affect education and with it the wider skills agenda? How do the health decisions that are made impact the economy in a rural area? How does the closure of hospitality businesses affect rural isolation, loneliness and mental health outcomes? I could go on, but I'm going to leave it to colleagues to give examples from their constituencies to highlight many of these issues. Thank you.